morning and welcome to Sunrise. I am Alero Edu.
And I'm Ayo Makinde. Good morning. Today is January 20, 2024. Just in case you're just waking up to
There goes your calendar.
Yeah. And it's a Saturday morning. Therefore, taking cocoa.
Or cocoa.
Or keo or cocoa.
Anyone you make your choice.
So long as you can call it, it's okay.
It's KO and it's okay.
KO is okay. That's the campaign slogan.
Yes, KO by the way.
Oh, yes, yes, I
memory.
remember.
Yes. Our hearts go out to the residents, the people, the government of Oyo State on that very unfortunate incident that happened in the course of the week. And analysts have gone, to town, haywire, telling us that it is not possible for explosives for mining to do such massive damage.
Well, Alero, are they then alleging that it is the military that did it? Are they alleging
once again
that it is some
terrorist organization?
Some even go ahead and say it's an attack.
Nobody has claimed responsibility.
Now, the neighbors, the people in the environment, identified these people and said that they know that they have been there for a long time. The reason they did not report them is because they are afraid. One, will the security agencies respond on time? And two, what if there is a reprisal against them? In fact, there are allegations also that the people whose houses went through this thing saw it coming and they left the environment. And that there are some other neighbors that were also aware of it, but before they could do anything about it, it was already too late. Also, government said that this thing, it looks like it's a stockpile of many, many years.
Wow.
Is it impossible? That it's not something that they just put together in maybe a few days. There are some of those things that have been there for a long time. Is it impossible? You know, I know that trust quotient between government and the people is greatly diminished, but it still doesn't give us room to make unfounded allegations. If you believe that that is the case, when was the last time you saw an explosive device? Secondly, you know, there is this thing that
I'm sure many of us don't even know what they look like.
You know, what is worse is that there are some home cooked or locally made explosive devices. We don't even know the capacity of what they can do, and so I would still give it to government. Well, this is not even a time to be talking all of that. What I'll just put it is, look, people's lives have been lost. Property of many years have been lost. In fact, I think it was Mr. Washington that was telling us that the people in that environment are not small boys.
They're mainly retired people.
They're mainly retired and even renowned people in the society.
Yes.
So for someone to go, it's easy to hide such things among such people because you will not even suspect that such a thing is in that environment. So it's not a time to be
So where are those people
blames.
going to move to now?
Yeah.
And who's going to pay? Some of those houses have to be pulled down totally.
Absolutely.
Because their integrity has been,
compromised.
Well,
government says that they are, giving them some kind of opportunity to go stay in certain places in the meantime.
Yeah. The inconvenience for old retired people.
Yeah.
These people who probably spent their entire life savings building those homes. Where this is my retirement home. This is where I'm going to die.
Yeah.
And then this happens.
Mr. Oshini told us when we spoke with him that within a 250-meter perimeter, between 30 and 50 houses may have been, between 20 and 30 houses may have been affected. Okay. That is within the 250-meter perimeter. How about those in other environments, in outer whatever of the place? I think those are some of the considerations to be made. Our heart goes out to all of you who have had to go through this kind of situation. We just pray that God helps us all to do what we need to do whenever we need to.
Yeah.
Oh, you're still there?
Yes. I mean, I'm still thinking about those poor people. You just can't help it.
Unless you're not human. You don't even feel it. Yeah.
Yes, the issue of customer service. I have to bring that up all over again because a friend of mine had an experience this week with a bank. And I had to say to the person, I said, look, you need to remind those officers at this particular bank that they're able to declare all those big fat profits because of your custom. And they are rude to you and they don't call you back when they're supposed to. I mean, she went somewhere to complain about something that was supposed to happen to her account. She's a senior, and apparently from 65 years on, you're not supposed to be paying bank charges anymore. And this person is 72. She says she went to the bank to say, look, I am told that I'm supposed not to be paying any kind of bank charges because I'm 72 years old. So, we'll give you the number of your account officer who will set that up for you. So she gets the number, she makes the call 5 times and there's no answer. And then she sends a text and there's still no answer from the account officer who up till now had not made herself known to this customer. The following morning, she calls again. Oh, I'm sorry, I was going to call you today. So why am I still paying bank charges? Oh, I'll escalate to the department in charge and they will get in touch with you and do what is supposed to be done.
Also, AI cannot automate the age thing. I'm just wondering.
That's what I thought too. Even Alero, who is a dinosaur, thought, but computers are supposed to do this thing now. Am I illiterate again? That's far.
There's something that's been playing in my head. Because I don't know how many of you watching now will say, okay, my account officer voluntarily called me. Oh, well, if you are operating in the region of 100 million.
300 million.
300 million. Maybe you are getting that kind of service. But, a question popped in my head. How many customers does an account, how many customers are attached to one bank official? And then in one grid, so that I'm just trying to be sympathetic because if, for instance, a customer has,
you are saying that maybe my friend's money is not enough for a customer officer to be calling her.
If your own is 18 million and somebody has 8 million or another person has 8,000 naira, all of you are bank customers.
Oremi, please, how much is your money that you are looking for account officer to call you?
So I'm just trying to be sympathetic. If, for instance, you are a bank official has 50
million.
No, 50 account holders.
Okay.
To relate with.
Yes.
Attached to you.
Yes.
And the person who has 2,000 is
also expecting you to call them. What cheek? Stop it. I mean, how can you have 2,000 in the bank and you're expecting account officer to call you? What is your problem?
At the end of...
You've got ideas way above your station.
At the end of 369,584,000, at the end of that word is only. The one that has 2,000 naira, 2,000 naira,
only.
All of you are equal.
In the eye of the bank. Okay.
But I do understand the argument here, and a number of people will also say the same thing. I had an account officer at some point in this particular bank, and I had to call. when they changed the account officer, I had no idea. In fact, when I now had an issue, a reason to call my account officer, I have left the bank. But for most banks, on the app, right, you have a place where you can know, okay, this is your account officer. In fact, you have
really?
three. Yes.
Okay, I'll check my app at the end of this program.
You have three people you can call on your app. Whether or not they will pick it up.
Thank you.
Whether or not they will pick up, that's another
Let's try it straight away.
And then it also depends on the bank. Okay, it also depends on the bank. Because I don't know whether Alero Microfinance Bank will be using the same number of account officers as others. And then,
okay.
For some people, you get your cards, for instance, at the moment, another time, maybe some other time. Alero, can you do this later? Let's open the show. Hello.
Yes, we have opened the show.
No. What's the menu? Or you want to use the money to buy menu?
We're going to start by talking about the fight against corruption.
And then that...
Is there a fight against corruption?
Well, in the course of the week, the chairman of the EFCC made some allegations.
Yes, he did. Okay. We'll look at all that.
And then from consumption to production, how many jobs are we exporting or outsourcing because we are... transferring or exporting all of our raw materials and so many others. What are the potential we have to scale up the Naira?
If you recall, over the Christmas period, we spoke about the cost of chicken and how it had gone up so much. And in fact, I think every station had clips of people going to the market and screaming at the cost of chicken. So we're going to be looking at the plight of poultry farmers.
Very important. And then, we open with the conversation on Ibadan the other time. We have someone, a counselor, a grief counselor, coming in later to talk about collective grief on our lifestyle segment today.
And then, as is usual, we shall close with the artist of the week. And all I can tell you right now is that he is a he.
Not a they.
Not a she either.
No. Okay, so we're back right after now. I have had a cup of cocoa this morning with a dash of honey. Lovely paste. Get yours. Please don't look at me like that. And we'll be right back.
You are who you are. Yesterday, today, and forevermore. What you say is what you do. Faithful till the end. Faithful God, I worship you. I worship you. You're too faithful to fail me.
The song has me, I support his treatment.
You're too
for joining us this morning. Systemic corruption is a major obstacle to stability and economic development in Nigeria. Estimates show that in the 60 years since independence, corruption has cost the Nigerian economy more than $550 billion.
Whoa.
Not naira. The EFCC, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission of Nigeria, recovered at least $750 million in local and foreign currencies linked to corruption and fraud in 2021 alone.
Whoa.
So let's take a look at this cankerworm. Our guests this morning are Mr. Tony Dania, who is with us in the studio, a legal practitioner. Good morning. And joining us via Zoom, it's my pleasure to welcome the Managing Director and Co-Founder of Trans-Sahara Investment Corporation, Mr. Bukar Kyari. Good morning, Mr. Kyari. As well as Professor Demola Abbas, who's a global security expert. Good morning, Mr. Abbas. Let me start with Mr. Dania here in the studio. The way we read and hear about corruption these days, in light of Better Edugate, which is also linked to the Minister of Interior, the former central bank governor, we hear all these things every day. Does it really give you the feeling that there is a fight against corruption?
Naturally, corruption won't fight back. The past leaders that have made attempts to fight corruption, including late President Yaradua, blessed memory, couldn't, defeat corruption. Corruption was entrenched and become conspicuously systemic under the military president of Ibrahim Babangida.
Ouch.
Yeah, he was, he felt everybody has a price. He became more entrenched then. During Gawan's regime, they were bereft of ideas on what to do with the fund we have. And I'm surprised because they went abroad, they went to UK, US, they saw what is going on there, trains and all that. If they have institutionalized infrastructural development, so naturally people know what to do. We won't be here. Now, every person wants to make money from the system. It's only very few that are interested in the well-being of the society. It's only very few that are interested in putting in place policies that will be well entrenched and become institutionalized that will prevent corruption. It is not difficult to rule Nigerians. Nigerians are among the best persons in the world. I'm telling you this. It's only few persons, some persons who have not traveled around that will say, oh, Nigeria. No, yes, as much as we want to criticize our leaders, the private persons are doing well. And there are also corruption within the private citizens because they will negotiate with those in power, those who are, in the civil service, and then say, look, let's compromise this process and let's make money out of it. You make X amount, I make X amount. You, a civil servant that is receiving about 500,000 naira per month, you dangle 10 million before that civil servant, he will kill his father to allow you in. So, and then this system is well entrenched. The only way we can prevent it, the president must lead by example. If he shows exuberance, if he's not prudent, I am happy that he has started becoming much more prudent than the way he was. When the man came and said, look, subsidy, I am an expert in subsidy. I know the rate of corruption in subsidy. I know, and I'm in maritime, so I know how much corruption we have in subsidy. So I was very happy when he said he removed subsidy, even though in this channel, channels, I criticize him for putting the cart before the horse. The palliative should have been introduced and subsidy done.
Even at that, some people will still tell you, well, you are you are collecting back what you give us. But let's take the opening comments of Mr. Abubakar Kyari as well on this issue. It's a very, very disturbing trend, and there are those who would say that, the issue of corruption is not limited to public service, it's also in the private sector. The challenge that one would have there in the first place is, what's your general assessment of our fight against corruption over the years? A quick look back, for instance, to what informed the need for us to have an EFCC is because there's those who would say the police is supposed to be the one doing what the EFCC is doing. But for whatever reason, the police was unable to do it. And then came the idea of ICPC and then eventually EFCC. In that gamut, what's your assessment of our fight? Do we have the right infrastructure? Do we have the right soft infrastructure, hard infrastructure approach to the fight against corruption, and why it seems it's pervasive and almost intractable?
Good morning. Yes, I think what we have as a nation is that, and by the way, fight against corruption has been going on in almost many of the developing world, and in some instances, even in Europe. 10 years ago, Greece was mired in corruption. The anti-corruption fights have not been successful because of many reasons. Of course, before we even go ahead and look at to do an assessment of our situation as a country vis-a-vis the fight against corruption, we need to also know what corruption is. It's very simple. If you are entrusted with public authority or public power and abuse it in a manner that benefits you or your friends and family, that's the simple definition of corruption. Now, it also means that all of us as a nation are corrupt. Why do I say that? When there is capacity, if you want to cut the line, if you want to do so at the very basic level of our lives, there seems to be an endemic corruption. Because if anything is not done fairly, it basically means it's corrupt. In a nutshell, it has permeated the fabric of society, and it has become a de facto, cancer that has been eating into the fabric of society. Now, the worst, of course, is the one where people are looking at it from the public sector side, meaning people that have been entrusted with trust are abusing that trust for their own benefits. The worst is even political corruption, where elections are manipulated, where you go after your opponents, political opponents, and the list goes on and on. Now, I think when we, first of all, understand what corruption is as a nation, and all of us know that it's not behaving in the right manner. So it's bad habit, essentially. If you go back to the Greeks or Cicero's saying bad manners is actually the beginning of corruption or whatever. So essentially, what we have is that the assessment is that we haven't been successful at fighting corruption. In fact, I give another country similar to Nigeria, Russia. Russia had 25. The country had launched 25 anti-corruption campaigns, none of which had succeeded. And the reason basically is that the consequence of being corrupt, what is the penalty? Yeah. What are the outcome? How is the institution so weak that you do not get punished severely?
Okay.
If all of those add up, then you have a problem of it remaining in society. Lee Kuan Yew, who fought corruption in Singapore successfully, said that if you want to fight corruption, in fact, he didn't even use the word fight. I believe he said, if you want to defeat corruption, you first must be ready to jail your friends and relatives.
Yeah.
Now, that's probably the starting point.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll have to wait to see the first person to do that.
Nigerians would say that's rather extreme.
But you know, Professor Abbas, speak to the institutions that we have and what needs to be done about it. Just in the course of the week, we got reports that the chairman of the EFCC was saying that the major objective of the war against corruption and financial crimes globally is to drive economic development and create jobs. But he found that the quest for bribes by some of their own officials, their own investigators, maybe not, I don't know, whether they are staff or not, has become too embarrassing. Sounds something like it's something that's been on for a while. And having been working in the institution for a while, he would know. And that is just one of the few anti-corruption agencies in the country that we have. What's your take on that one? Because Mr. Bukakari also spoke to our general attitude, the general attitude of Nigerians.
Good morning, Ayob, and good morning, Madam. Well, I'm happy you started with that poignant observation. I'm happy you picked on it when the AFCC chairman spoke about the quest, and he said the craze and the quest for money is becoming too embarrassing. And I said, I'm happy you picked the phrase "too embarrassing," because when I listened to that, it was during his New Year speech to his team, his staff. I first asked myself, so what if if it hasn't become too embarrassing? Is it okay? And when you say something has become too embarrassing as a pre-launch for you to respond, you are saying, well, unless it gets too embarrassing, that probably will not. And I don't want to be nitpicky, just to show that we have become quite tolerable, and very tolerant of certain vices, up to the point that they begin to choke us in the eyes. I think that is when we begin to respond. But be that as it may, I think Mr. Oluyede, the EFCC chairman, still deserves a slight commendation. And I'll tell you why I'm saying that. I think it takes some courage for him to start his campaign by calling out his own quarters, by calling out his own staff, by saying, you know what, we have a problem with this corruption here that we want to fight in the country. And I think for that, we need to recognize that I think is a step in the right direction. Not that he has done anything extraordinary. Please, let me clarify. But the fact that he has spoken out is telling us that, look, I'm going to start by cleaning my house. And obviously, if you really want to fight corruption, it has to start with you. I think it was Michael Jackson who says, want to save the world, you have to look in the mirror. You start with yourself. So to that extent, I think that is, but you say we should speak to the institution. There are so many of them, ICPC, FCC, and this and that. If you like jump RIP, whatever you want to jump into it. It's not about the names. It's not about the names of the institutions. It's not about how many of them exist in the country. I think the problem is whether we're actually serious about what we are doing. I listened to the last gentleman when he talked about that we need to understand what corruption really is. And I agree with that entirely, because sometimes our problem in Nigeria is that we think we understand what we are dealing with. And we don't take enough time to actually study the nature and the dynamics of a fight that we are dealing with. And without understanding it totally, you cannot really begin to really engage with it. The lecturer who sells handouts in classrooms to his students or to our students can actually be practicing corruption of some mode, whether you like it or not. The pastor who in his church collects tithes from his congregations and use that money to buy private jets for himself or herself might be engaging in some corruption if there is no auditing and probity in that church. And it goes on and on and on. So I agree with the fact that we need to take a step back and first try to, not that we are going to engage in any philosophical or endless conceptualization of corruption. You know what it is, but we need to understand its true nature and the dynamics. But still talking about the issue of institutions, to talk about IO, I think the fourth factor I think we need to do is when you set up an institution to fight a malignant vice like corruption, you need to recruit the best people to do that job. I'm saying this very cautiously and without casting aspersion on the personality of the EFCC chairman who is there now, who I think is pretty qualified to be on that job, no question about it. But when you look at Section 2 of the Act itself that establishes EFCC, that says somebody who's going to lead the EFCC must be from, a former enforcement, agent to the equivalence of this person in police and this and that. And that kind of provision to me is highly nonsensical. You know why? The totality of enforcement agencies in Nigeria, if you put them together, will be less than 2% of Nigerian population. So you want to deal with a problem that affects every facet of Nigeria. You haven't thrown open the question of who will lead that to all Nigerians. So if you are a Nigerian very competent in so many ways to lead that, in as long as you have not got some enforcement whatsoever criteria, qualities behind you, you are automatically ruled out. And that cannot be correct. I think I said it long ago. This same thing is the kind of mentality that came in when the military came out, just when President Ashiwaju came to play. When the military came out and said, if the president did not appoint somebody from the uniform of services, they will not respect the person as a national security advisor. And I said, what nonsense. You cannot be holding the commander-in-chief of Nigerian Armed Forces to ransom that he must appoint the NSA from this. And I'm very happy he did not do that Biden. At the end of the day, look at the US. The national security advisor, more often than not, the academics. Condoleezza Rice from Stanford University, this and that. Most of them are academics, people who are intellectually endowed. Because at the end of the day, most of these things we are talking about, the security as an issue, it's not just guns and bullets. So it is a misnomer to equate, as an example, I'm just giving an example, national security advisor with issue of guns and bullets, instead of going after the same thing is with corruption. First, you need to throw open, the recruitment process. Then get the best into that system.
One of the challenges, Prof, one of the challenges, for what we have seen over the years, correct me if I'm wrong, but Mr. Daniel, you are here. One of the challenges that I have observed is never really about who is the head, but the system. For instance, I'm looking at a list now from the UNODC talking about the major anti-corruption institutions in Nigeria, which includes the ICPC, the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, the EFCC, Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, the Code of Conduct Bureau, the Bureau of Public Procurement, the Nigeria Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, NATI, the Public Complaints Commission, the Office of the Auditor General of the Federation, and the Technical Unit on Governance and Anti-Corruption Reforms, all in Nigeria. So I don't know if it is the function of the leadership of this team, of these organizations, as opposed to the systems. Correct me if I'm wrong.
It is the system. Let me quickly say that with respect, I differ a bit on how corruption was defined. Corruption is a generic compromise on the part of any person for gains. So it can be in the private enterprise, world. It can be in the public service world. But it is more pronounced in the public service because they have access to our commonwealth and they abuse it. The Edugate and the rest are not new. A justice of the Supreme Court retired and exposed a lot of things. That is corruption. So it's everywhere. Now, the system must be sanitized. So it is not the leaders.
The question then is how? This fight against corruption has been on for how many years now?
See, President Tinubu have started it. I pray he sustain it. Corruption, look at Singapore.
Let me pause. Let me take you on for a bit. You said President Tinubu has started it. But this whole this whole drive started under the Obasanjo government of between 1999 and 2007, and here's why. It was the EFCC that was very, very strong at the time. You began by talking about the fact that corruption will fight back when you fight it. Corruption fought back against Justice Akombi at the time, and for whatever reason, ICPC, you know, some people began to question a number of things, and then the EFCC came on board. And now we're still talking about what we're talking about. That is why
I said it's a it's the system that needs to be corrected. The system allows corruption. For example, if the head does not tolerate corruption, it will flow down. That for the civil service. And then the private world will be affected positively. The impact will be, they will feel the impact because they interact with government representatives in doing their private businesses. I don't know if you understand me. If, for instance, you import and export, you deal with MPA, you deal with customs. Customs are government agencies. The same thing, the MPA. I bet you, the importer, you are a private person. You understand? So if the system, if the president emphasize on cleaning the system, I will not tolerate corruption. I will deal with you. Take note, since 1999 to date, the first politician that will be the president is the current president. Obasanjo was a retired military man. Then he handed over to teachers. Then an ex-military man came in. It is now that a politician is there. And he has experience having fought under Nadeko with the military. He has gone through the system, so politically he's stable. But what he should do, he should sustain and not do a selective thing.
Let's be clear on this. Again, you began by talking about the fact that corruption will fight back.
Yes.
Listen to what Mr. Bukakari said the other time.
Yes.
Consequences.
Exactly.
That the consequences are not even strong enough to deter.
Yes. You see,
and the law is very clear. Each of these institutions mentioned are clear about consequences. Some of them, you know, there are many Nigerians who will not forget the example of former governor of Delta State, James Ibori, for a long time.
Yes.
He was vindicated in Nigeria, and for whatever reason, he had to be, you know, incarcerated somewhere else. So our laws are clear, but are the laws doing what it is supposed to do?
We're coming back to the system. The system is generic. Judicial system, prosecutory system. You understand? The will to prosecute, the will to ensure that consequences according to the law are meted out to victims, to suspects or persons, you know, found to have corrupted the system.
Sometimes I have a problem with the English word will, because in the space of talking about will, you're also talking about political will.
Yes.
Do you need political will to execute a law that is written in black and white?
If the Attorney General, for instance, that has power to say he can discontinue a matter, comes to a court and say, I'm not going to prosecute this person anymore, and you know that person has been involved in serious corruption and ought to be prosecuted. That's what we mean. And then there are certain incidents that are currently going on that makes you feel if this method is sustained, it will, to a reasonable extent, start a good fight against corruption.
Okay.
Mr. Carey, would you agree with those who say that corruption thrives in our society because of the weak rule of law and because of impunity? Because those who have been found corrupt, well, we don't hear too much after the disgrace of taking them to court and all that. But do they come back and enjoy the spoils of their corrupt activities?
Quite interesting. I think what we have as a nation, looking at corruption, in fact, one of the remarks that I find extremely difficult to get is when people say, when you fight corruption, corruption fights back. What do you mean? Corruption is nothing. It's people who are corrupt that fight back, not corruption itself. So I do agree, Ayo, that we are playing with words. And of course, English language is not my first language, so I may be mistaken here. However, we have laws, we have rules, we have processes. All of All of those have been codified. And the simple thing for us to do, if we believe in meritocracy and honesty, is to follow the process, follow the laws, follow the rules. That's simple. Anything outside of that should be punished. Of course, the interaction between public and private sector exists. That's why corruption exists. And even within the public sector. In fact, one of the things that we need to look at, there is a gentleman, a Nigerian, who had written a book called Prosperity Paradox, Efosa Ojomo. He said something that actually we should, as a nation, look at it as a solution to solving the issue of corruption. Because when there is scarcity of things, there is a reason to get it. The example he gave was that of telephone lines before GSM. Now we had about less than 500,000 telephone lines, and only the rich can afford to get phone lines in their homes. For those of us that are old enough, we know it. And the PT&T or the Post and Telephone and Telegraph Company, which was a government agency, you have to bribe somebody to get telephone in your house or in your office. Yep. And it takes weeks, months for you to get a phone line installed. What happened when Mo Ibrahim, a Sudanese Egyptian, I believe, when he came up with the idea of introducing GSM technology or telephony into Africa, people said they cannot afford to pay for it. Africa is too poor. What he did was to still go ahead and offer it. And in the process, today there are close to 1 billion lines of phones. And I will tell you that the telecoms sector, in terms of getting a line, nobody bribes anybody to get a GSM line. Do you bribe anybody? But for us, we have seen when our parents and ourselves bribed entities to do it. So the solution and his alternative solution, it's not about institution, it's not about political will, it's to encourage innovation. Technology can cut through and level the playing field. And what I'm saying is that even our elections, there are applications. What was it in Afghanistan, 2009 elections in Afghanistan? The incident of malpractices reduced by 40-something%. And what you do is that when you are monitoring and when you have the glaring lights put up, the corrupt do not do their business openly. They hide. The reason they are hiding is that they know it's illegal, it's wrong, even morally and spiritually speaking, it's wrong, and therefore they do it under the cover of darkness, so to speak. However, when you open that up, whether using technology or whatever, the incidence of corruption reduce. So essentially, it's actually a combination of the power of the citizens and, of course, to a smaller extent, the political willpower of our leaders. And I hope we have bright spots within our nation that would also drive to eliminate corruption. Thank you.
Professor, let me bring the part about the impunity to you. Do you think that people who have been involved in corrupt practices encourage others to do the same because they seem to get away with it?
Prof, you're muted.
Thank you very much for the question on impunity, Sheda. But before I come there quickly, let me respond to the issue of system that Ayo raised, and that system is not human beings. Ayo, you can have the best system in the world if you don't have people who are dedicated to make that system work. That system will fail. System and human beings is like dog and tail. The tail doesn't wag the dog wags the tail. Now, the same, I think gentleman in your studio was saying that the system is not people. But then he mentioned that Tinubu came is doing the right thing. It's the same system that produced Tinubu, don't let's forget. He came in and he made the same system there. The fact that he's showing a different path tells you can have the best system in the world. If you don't have correct people in power, in position, you're going to make a mess of it at the end of the day. So at least you have a president today, in President Tinubu, who says, you know what, there is so much, allegation going in the way of a particular minister. Let's look at what is going on. Suspend the minister. That is almost a force in the country. We don't get this kind of things in Nigeria. We got used to not having that. Coming to impunity now. Because if anybody behaved in such a brazen manner, they were doing that because they knew at that point in time, and they still know, for many of them in power today, that they can do it and literally get away with it. Political offices in Nigeria, I used to say long ago that corruption is almost one thing that binds all Nigerian segments together. It's the only area you don't have a politician coming out and saying another politician is corrupt. You almost don't get it in Nigeria. So the system is there. But then you have somebody who comes in to operate the system. It's a chicken and egg situation. I am not saying kill the system. I am saying when you have a system, and by the way, system is already there. The Constitution created it for us in the country. We have many laws. Nigeria has fine laws. So those laws are an embodiment of a system we want. EFCC has a law today. EFCC has many laws. Don't have corruption in the EFCC. The system is there, but it's the people who are operating. So what Mr. Oluyede is doing today is to say, this is the system I met on ground. I'm going to make it work. I'll make it work by making sure I weed out those who are going to compromise the system. So please, don't let's treat system as a brooding omnipotence in the sky. Whether you like it or not, people animate systems. Systems do not animate people. So I'll leave that. Now, coming back to impunity per se, fantastic. I agree entirely with Mr. Kiari's last analysis in terms of using technology to drive many things. As an example, if you go to government departments, you'll be shocked to know how much cash is dispensed on a daily basis. Not because we cannot use computers, but because it's difficult to fiddle, to be corrupt when you have technology doing that particular job for you. So we put human beings where technology should be able to work. So technology will cut down a lot. And when that happens, then you have less need for enforcement than we have today. However, beyond that is the fact that even if you have the best technological system in the world, and there are so many countries that have that, let's be honest, you will still have corruption anyway. You still have to have some corruption at some level. That is where impunity, strong impunity comes to play. What is impunity in Nigeria? Okay, so I am a minister, I am a commissioner, I am president, I steal money, I go to my church, I pay 10% in tithes. Pastors will come and pray for me, they will lay hand on me, and I'll shout to stand and this and that. Kids in the area will be emulating me, they'll be very happy that I've done fantastically well. I'm a drug pusher, I do the same thing. So we have a very stinking social system that we operate in the country today that has nothing to do by way of impunity. Let's ask ourselves a question. Is it enough to call out a minister that will find 500 or something million in their personal account? What can Nigerians look forward to in terms of punitive measure? If that person were proved guilty, please don't misquote me. If that minister were proved guilty at the end of the day, because for now it's still an allegation, they've got to go through the due process. But the question is, what do you find? We live in a country, let's go back to as early as 1983. Umaru Deko left Nigeria with 4.2 billion naira. At that point in time, it was about 6.2 billion pounds sterling. That was more than the national budget of Togo as a country. That same person came to this country, was welcomed with pomp and pageantry. I mentioned that because I remember him very, very well. I wasn't too young in 1983. You can replicate that to so many across board in that. So people steal billions of naira. I'm sure Desiani at the end of the day, again, it's an allegation. If Desiani were to prove today, she would do some silly deal. Maybe, in Nigeria, you have somebody who has stolen, who was alleged to have taken out of about 80-something billion from the system. Somebody in charge of the national money in the country. What kind of deal would they do at the end of the day? So what messages are you sending out to the young ones?
Okay, in terms of...
It's cost-effect benefit. Yeah. In Nigeria today, anybody who wants to be corrupt, wants to steal, they will say, look, if I want to steal, let me steal enough so that when they throw me into just 2 years of jail, I'll come back and spend the proceed. We need drastic solution to end impunity. If you know somebody is corrupt, whether you are a minister, you are a commissioner, you are a private person, you are corrupt. If you go for 20 years imprisonment, and you are denied the right to spend that money, everybody will sit up.
Exactly.
We weren't too young in this country. Look, I hate to mention the Diagbon regime in the 80s. And we remember them for one thing, with all the draconian laws and this and that. We remember the Tunde Diagbon for one thing, discipline. I was joking with somebody 2 days ago. I said in the days of war against indiscipline, even if you came out of your house at 2 a.m. in your house, in your compound, you wanted to pee, you'll be shaking that it's Diagbon there, it's Diagbon there. They are the same Nigerians. They were leaders. Leaders who dictate. Tell you that you want to follow in a particular system.
Okay.
Systems don't dictate to leaders.
Thankfully, those days are far gone, and it is 3 to 9.
Those days should come back. We need
but
that
whether
discipline.
or not we will be open to those days, that's another thing, Mr. Daniel, right? Because this whole thing, it's all going. The fight against corruption. So far, what I can deduce, is that the three of you are talking about the fact that we don't have enough consequences for actions. So, in the few minutes that we have, gentlemen, let's talk about the approach to these consequences. How strong should those consequences be that they will be strong enough to deter?
See, I agree with the two guests. You know we have what we call plea bargain. I refer to the incident of Mrs. Sibru, the MD of Oceanic Bank. Why I mention name is that I can justify what I'm saying. You know, she was among the first big corrupt suspects that exploited plea bargain. You pay some money that you have stolen, you evade imprisonment, and you go with the remaining one. And it's in the law. So until you amend that look, the money will be taken and you will go to jail. That will reduce impunity. You know, when you want to curb crime, you take steps for deterrence. And I can't help but refer to the aid again in Nigeria. It will trickle down that you cannot do anything. Look at the impunity with which aid, as if nothing can happen, as if nobody is watching the system. You transfer money to a private account, as if nobody would do anything. That is, to me, impunity. And it's all over the places. So now, if the consequences is improved from what we have, because everybody, one of the top military men that was charged by EFCC, he has gone for plea bargain. One of the top Air Force officer retired that was charged is doing plea bargain. So plea bargain allow those who have stolen so much money, and the judges cannot help it.
Is it a strong enough deterrence?
It's not.
Okay.
It's not. No. Sorry, please. It's not a strong enough deterrence. Impunity will stop if the head says it will not tolerate, whether from private or public servants or appointed person who get involved in corruption. It will reduce. Okay. It will also serve as a deterrence. Okay. Now,
go. Just conclude that thought.
Yes, when any person that is corrupt is singled out, apart from the disgrace the person gets from, public terrain, and then the person is charged to court. It doesn't take anything for the National Assembly to amend that bargain. Once the fund are traced to anywhere, pick the fund, put it in the national covers.
Are you prepared to sponsor a bill for that to be done?
Yes. Like we said, corruption is everywhere. You want to sponsor a bill, some people are there, they'll make it so difficult for you to pass the bill. It's everywhere. It's so much entrenched.
Okay. Well, Mr. Carey, how strong should the consequences be so that it can ensure deterrence?
In simple terms, the reason why corruption is so pervasive is that the gains is greater than the penalty times whatever else that. So the sum of all the penalties or consequences, which means that we have weak way of punishing a person who is alleged to have been corrupt or who have been found to be corrupt. Now, if you remove any signs, if you want to change, if you want to deter, in addition to technology and innovation, I think what you need to do is to remove any room for plea bargaining. or any room for any sort of, and in fact, we even need to relook at our value system as a society. Why am I saying this? Somebody will steal a lot, do have the plea bargain, or even spend a time in jail, come out, and what will the community do? Give him chieftaincy title.
Yes.
Those are signs that says that we have a warped value system. It sends message to the young ones that as long as you can get away, do whatever it is, get money, however, through whatever means, those values need to be thrown away so that we have the right value system and define people, award people titles or honorary awards for integrity and honesty rather than for malfeasance.
Okay. Well, Prof, what would be your own comment? Well, you cited the example the other time of churches, those who believe that it's more than churches. I think Mr. Kyari also just cited that sometimes it goes as far as chieftaincy titles and honorary degrees here and there. But what kind of consequences do you think will be strong enough to deter?
Well, thanks. Yeah, when I was making that example, I did say that it goes through the whole facet of society to cover everything. Look, we need the strongest consequence to deter impunity. And what do I mean by that? I'm not calling for capital punishment or anything like that, but we're talking about a consequence that is dire enough. Look, if you are a sex offender in the UK, as an example, apart from doing time and everything, they put your name on the public sex offender. There's a register for that, which means forever you can never deal with kids again. You can never, operate in a particular area. So I would say, first and foremost, plea bargaining is part of criminal justice system. However, there should be an exemption. Plea bargaining should be outlawed. It should not be applicable to those who loot and those who are accused of embezzling public funds.
Allow me to punctuate you for a second, Prof. How about the example of the people cited by the chairman of the EFCC, and some of the people that there are allegations surrounding them at the ports? These are just examples. How about those who go to government offices and want to get something, but for one reason or the other, they are not able to get it because someone is asking for something? How about those ones? What kind of consequences would be strong enough to deter?
Right, it's corruption. It's the same consequence. You cannot begin to segregate. You cannot begin to graduate punishment for corruption. Corruption is corruption. Once you are corrupt, once it's proved, it's the same punishment that you have to. Now, if you talk in terms of degrees, obviously, somebody who is sitting in a private office in the private sector, maybe security man who is taking money to allow people to come into a bank, you can't punish that person probably to the same extent that you punish a governor or a minister who is brazenly looting public funds, because one is put in charge of private, money. One is dealing with public fund as a whole. That's what I'm saying. For those who embezzle or who have been proved to have embezzled public funds, there should not be plea bargain, pure and simple. That is very, very important. And as I said, secondly, apart from denying them the gains of their corruption, apart from punishing them through jail, I'm talking about long term, minimum 15, 20 years, that will have very serious deterrent, you must also put their names of public offenders as corrupt people who should never be able to go near public offices. For everybody else in their life. In Nigeria, you have people who have been commissioners, who have been governors, who have been ministers, who sometimes they are taken out of public, places for a very short time that you just go off onto something cool again. And after that, they're given a quiet role in the public sector still, but not in the front listing. It's still the same thing. You're still recycling criminality. Ban them from holding public offices once they have been proved corrupt and when they have done a term on that, pure and simple. Okay. I'm not saying kill them. I'm not saying they should never work. Only they should never work to touch public fund again. That will serve, I think, as a strong deterrent.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that's a good place to leave it for today, because this matter of this fight against corruption is an ongoing conversation and it will be for a long time. Professor Demola Abbas, global security expert, who joined us virtually. We also had Mr. Buka Kiari, Managing Director and co-founder of Trans-Sahara Investment Corporation, who also joined us virtually. And then we had Mr. Tony Dania, a legal practitioner, who was with us, or who is with us, was with us in our studio in Lagos. Thank you all very much for coming to share your insights with us this morning. Sunrise will be back with another interesting conversation. Do make sure that you remain with us.
Wanna make love on the moon, dancing to my tunes. Easy too much, it's not too much. I wanna be a forest, if wishes were horses. Easy too much, it's not too much. If I want money, I do what dance, I got to say. If I want money, I'm all by my shoulder, I'm all by my foya, I'm all by me. Yeah, yeah. I wanna be a billionaire, billionaire, yeah, yeah. I wanna be a billionaire, billionaire, yeah, yeah. Yalla, yeah, anybody, anybody, yeah, yeah, yeah.
$1 billion is a lot of money. Now I want you to tell me, what are you going to do with it?
I wanna wake up in a Lamborghini. I want to fly for Santorini, the Bonito Sicily. Oh, yeah, yeah. If I want money, I do what times I got to say. If I want money, I'm all by my shoulder, I'm all by my foya, I'm all by me. Yeah, yeah. I wanna be a billionaire, billionaire, yeah, yeah. I wanna be a billionaire, billionaire.
You want to use a lifeline?
Yes,
Which one do you want to?
phone a friend.
Phone a friend. All right, all the friends that are available, who's more likely to answer this question?
Well, my friend, Brother Shaggy.
Brother Shaggy?
Yes.
Who's he?
He's my friend from high school, secondary school.
Okay. All right, let's not waste time. Let's put Brother Shaggy on the line, shall we?
Okay. Hello, Shaggy.
Hello?
Alpha and Ateni.
Hey, Makanaki.
I didn't only want to be a billionaire. I beg, help me. I say I need your help right now. I beg.
Okay, I don't calm down. What's happening?
Okay. Listen to the question.
What is a group of tigers called?
Tiger. Okay, where? Tiger plenty. What's it that you call them? Green here, where Tiger Woods. I mean. Okay, what's the option? Where did you?
Here are the options. Congregation, parliament.
Parliament is that's the House of Assembly. That one will be answer. What's be another one? Where did you?
School, ambush. Your time starts now.
Ambush. That ambush is going to be. That ambush, oh yeah, because if they say ambush, oh yeah, that's like a
Shaggy.
That's a way tiger work. Tiger is our tiger they walk inside the bush. Oh yeah, tiger in the ambush in a tiger. Oh yeah, because the remote say what? Where to what? See, tiger is a gather. Oh yeah, it is called an ambush. Tiger. Hello.
Bye bye.
So, after that conversation, what conclusion have you come to?
Okay, well, just search out that video online and find out the rest. Now,
Tiger is ambush.
No, I think the right ambush you need is to ambush corruption.
That's a thought.
You need to ambush corruption.
That's a thought.
You know, anyway, it kind of, segues into the next conversation about getting Nigeria from consumption to production. And there are several questions on that. Because depending on who you ask about Nigeria's trade balance, the answer is varied, as there are opinions or perceptions. In December, for instance, the 2023 report says from the NBS that Africa's biggest economy recorded a positive trade balance of 1.89 trillion naira for the fourth straight time in Q3. That's a 166.2% increase from 708.9 billion in the previous quarter. And that also improved from a deficit of 409.4 billion on a year-on-year basis. Now, all of these is talking about so many things. Now, the perception of corruption levels says that, now, from the perspective of consumption levels, it is not difficult to see why Nigeria is so poor and majority of our citizens in abject poverty. There are those who believe that it is evident that our economic woes cannot be ascribed to problems associated with excessive consumption. Underconsumption is a phenomenon Nigerians should actually worry about. What do all these mean? Let's have that conversation this morning with Professor Banji Oyelaran Oyinka, who is the author, who is an economist, by the way, and an author, the author From Consumption to Production, a book he published in 2016. Thanks for joining us this morning, Prof. Perhaps a good way to begin would be to even ask the question, how did we get here to the place where Nigeria is consuming more than it produced? Have we always been like this, pre-independence, into independence, and until now? How did we get here, Prof?
So thank you very much, Ayo Alero. Thanks for inviting me. I like the historical context in which you have posed this question. Pre-independence, Nigeria was a major exporter of almost all the big commodities, oil, palm, groundnut, as we all know. And this is where most countries started, actually. They started from being, exporters, developing countries, exporters of these kinds of goods and, from the farms, because we all came from agrarian background. Post-independence, there were big plans by this country to become an industrial nation. Almost all the development plans had a huge investment plans to build steel plants, to build petrochemicals, just like the others in East and Southern Asia. Then came oil in the 70s, and we experienced the phenomena called the Dutch disease. In simple terms, the Dutch disease is a situation where when a country discovers oil or minerals and begin to export that commodity, what happens is that the dollar accruing from that excess, revenues coming out of that commodity tends to escalate or to lead to the appreciation of their FX currency. So you have a situation where people are still very nostalgic up till now, where the naira was at par with the dollar. And remember, we were not America. We were not Europe. Our currency was at par with those economies simply because we were exporting crude oil. And we did this for a very long time. That's what the Dutch disease do to you. And you have a problem in two ways. One is it distorts policy. Policymakers take their eyes off what we call the tradable sectors, manufacturing and agriculture. rather than invest those money that we got into productive infrastructure to build bridges, we did some to build, all of those things that we did some, but they didn't work out. We continue on a profile of unsustainable consumption. And that's the second thing that the Dutch disease does to you. Your import profile becomes extremely, locked into imports of luxury goods. Even as at 2021, when you look at our import profile, and I'm trying to talk before or after COVID, you find that Nigeria, for example, exported crude oil of about $34 billion. And we imported finished products of 77.5 billion, according to OPEC. So in other words, you don't process what you require. You export what you produce, others process them, they create jobs in their country, and then they sell it back to you at 10, 20 times the price. Let me give you a very poignant example. In that year, 2021, China's export to the world was about $3.3 trillion. The total African export, all the 54 African countries, was 2.7 trillion. Just one country overshadowed every African country plus. And so you are in a situation where you are feeding others with raw materials and you simply are consuming their good. This is our descent into a consumption society. The second dimension is that because we didn't invest these monies into changing the profile of our rural areas, because this is what most countries do. Rural areas, as you know, don't have proper healthcare infrastructure. They don't have proper hospitals, schools. They don't have roads. So folks tend to migrate into the cities. In the old urbanization profile that we saw in Europe, I mean, many of us read Charles Dickens' A Tale of Two Cities. People come to cities into factories. They come to work because of the pull factor. The cities pull them to come to the cities to work in factories. In our own case, the rural area pushed us out, not pulled by the cities. We were pushed out by the rural environment because there was no life and there was no livelihood there because we didn't invest enough to change the profile of our agriculture from being agrarian to a productive industrial agriculture. So you find cities in Africa have also become consumption cities, as I term them. And the bad part of it is that you cannot hide poverty. Slums begin to form at the peripheries of these cities. You have your Makoko, you have your Ikorodu slums, you have all of them all over the place by people who came out of the rural areas having no skill, having no education, and they come into the cities in the hope of getting jobs which didn't exist.
Okay.
So Prof, this is the consumption cities that we have created.
Okay. Prof, I listened with attention to your introduction about the monies we were making from exporting crude oil. You know, we just sat back and we were counting dollars. So is it these same people who are used to just sitting down and counting dollars that you want to go back to the farms now, where in their mind's eye, when they think about the farm, all they see is hoes and spades?
Yes, indeed. And I think this is, let me introduce another terminology, which is productivity, like you know. The difference between a rich country and a poor country is that singular word called productivity. In a particular Dutch farm, I'll give you an example. 1 hectare of land, you will get 20 tons of potatoes, 20 tons. In a typical African environment, you probably get one ton. In a typical, industrial farming environment, you probably get about 12 to 14 tons of maize. In a typical agrarian society, you get 1.2, 1.42. So this is the issue of productivity of the land, of the soil, of the people. Productivity also relates to human skills. You know, we are used to measuring those hard things. Like, you know, you can count houses built, you can count machinery, but that soft infrastructure, or that soft, what somebody call brain infrastructure, the human skills. I don't know whether you saw a video clip that's going around by Tim Cook, the head of Apple, where they were, you know, people were complaining about going to China to manufacture. And he was saying, we didn't go to China because of cheap labor. He said, people have taken their eyes off this history over the last several years. He said, China is no longer a place for cheap labor. He said, we go there because we have skills there. He said, those folks have skills because they have technical and vocational education. And he was giving an example of the USA. If you collect, you know, the number of, say, design engineers in the US, they'll fill a room. He said, if you collect them in China, they'll fill a whole football field. This is the difference. The number of people you have who are skillful, even on the farm, in the factories, and everything. Why is it that up till now, we can't even design a refinery by ourselves? After 50 years, how is it, for example, that we cannot even build roads without calling some foreigners to be road skills? That is where the difference is. Productivity.
So,
productivity.
Prof,
yes.
Following from that question, therefore, would be, so how do we get to the point where we are able to produce the kinds of figures that you mentioned? Was it 1 ton, you said, as opposed to 14 tons?
1 ton per hectare.
Per hectare, like other people are doing. How do we get that rolling in a country where to get bank loans, you have to pay about 25, 30% interest rates and all that?
Yeah. No, and this is, I must say that it hasn't been for lack of effort. I think there has been efforts made, but it's not nearly enough. Sometimes our efforts are too little, too late. We don't do it fast enough. What is happening is that the country is a huge country. We need a sense of emergency and urgency to do these things. I know, for example, the FDB has been very supportive in terms of productivity of the land. Basically, what you do, mechanization, the right variety of this particular commodity. Those are the things that define the seed, as I say. The seed is what defines, what you sow is what you reap, right? So if you sow a diseased seed, you probably get nothing out of it. If you sow a seed that is, susceptible to drought and pestilence, you come back after 6 months and you see nothing. But if you, for example, put in the ground a seed that is scientifically designed to have resistance to drought, to insects and all of that, and these are all what the science system should do. So what should we do? I think we should go back to the basics. I think we should start funding our research systems. We have not done that enough. When you talk to people in agricultural science in Nigeria, they tell you, all we get is salary. I supervised a PhD several years ago, and I was looking at NIFO and typical scientific research centers in Malaysia. The difference was just too mind-blowing. They have got to a point where they were using this same oil palm for all kinds of things, while we're still at a very rudimentary level. For example, cassava. Nigeria is the largest producer of cassava in the world. There's a figure that you can find on the internet that all we got, I think last year, from export of cassava was $1 million. $1 million. Because we simply just export the raw cassava. Thailand, which is one of our competitors, down like number 4, so got $1.3 billion. 1 million to 1.3 billion. Why is that? Thailand is not going to be exporting its cassava to you. They will take cassava. I get it that we eat gari, we eat fufu and all of that. But we have the land, we have the people. Nigeria is a huge country with huge potential. We have to make dedicated efforts to also put cassava into the industrial value chain. From cassava, you can make starch. Starch is the base. You can make ethanol, you can make methanol, you can make sorbitol. There's a fantastic woman there in Oyo State who has almost single-handedly built a whole industrial structure for herself. She's producing sorbitol. By the way, sorbitol is a sweetener that you use in toothpaste and confectionaries. And someone was telling us that if you build 25 of these factories, it's not even enough. All we do is import the sorbitol. We still import starch, for God's sake. In 2024, we still import starch. Nigeria shouldn't be importing those things.
Okay, Prof.
So this is the thing we need to change.
Yes. This is sounding both challenging and exciting at the same time. I don't even know the words for it. In the wake of this, the new federal government under the new president, one of the words that's making the rounds now is value addition. I remember that's part of the agenda, so to speak, of the federal government, value addition. Now, we also know that even though there is a federal Ministry of Agriculture, they don't have their own land. They have to talk to states. They have to collaborate with states. They have to assist, work with the states and all of those things. So how do you see all of that working well? We'll come to the initiative of your organization. Well, how do you see all of that collaboration happening? Perhaps even before we go there, what is the potential of Nigeria's productivity to sustaining itself as opposed to importing?
It's about intentionality. We just have to be intentional about it. This is not rocket science. You see, 1964 or so, that was when India achieved a green revolution. And that's, again, very far away. In this recent time, the bank has supported Ethiopia. I'm sure you have seen this news in the newspapers. The African Development Bank supported Ethiopia, starting with 5,000 hectares of wheat, new variety of wheat, which is heat resistant. And as I speak to you, this was, I think, around 2018. As of this year, Ethiopia is aiming to produce 2 million hectares of wheat, 2 million from 5,000 hectares. Ethiopia has become a net exporter of wheat. You must have heard Dr. Additional say it in many of his speeches. It is not rocket science. We did the same with Sudan. Sudan has become a major country for producing seeds wheat. So it's about being intentional. It's about infusing a sense of urgency and saying enough is enough of poverty. So, like I said, we have. It's not that people are not trying. We just need to do more.
I feel
we need to do it faster.
Yeah, Prof.
Faster and on a big scale.
I feel scandalized when you talk about the fact that Sudan is a net exporter of something. Sudan. I mean, knowing all that, the understanding that there's still a lot of wars, crisis, and all of that along that particular country. Now, speak to that collaboration, Prof. On the one hand, the declaration has been made by the president. In fact, he said that they have lined up certain hundreds of thousands of hectares of land for agriculture and all of that. Speak to that collaboration that needs to happen and the challenges that collaboration could have, as well as likely ways around.
No, thank you. So I think it is actually happening now with some of the. So let's take the state, I mean the government. And at the end of it is the private enterprise that must drive business. That is the way it is everywhere, you know. How many people can government employ? So the role of the state, for example, is to create that ecosystem for businesses to work. The research institutions that produce the seeds, for example, you enable them, you finance them, you put investment in them, and you give them goals, clear KPIs. I want to have so and so thousands of tons of wheat seed. I want to have so and so cassava tons of this and this by September of 2024. So you set them goals, and then you now identify, of course, the critical actors in society, the big companies, the medium companies, the small farms. The small farms always need some level of coordination. So we give that. And I want to tell you also that, for example, the collaboration between the government and the states, at least some states now, as far as I know, has gone quite well. I know in Jigawa, for example, the wheat that we are supporting in Nigeria, the expectation that we're going to go almost 40,000 hectares this year and do more during the wet season. So that kind of collaboration is ongoing, and one has to commend the government for all the push, for all the, it has come late. It would have started last year, in fact, early next year, middle of last year, but the new government has pushed it off. So that kind of thing is what you want. The policy domain belongs to government. The enforcement of that policy must also belong to government. Government must say, we have a monitoring and evaluation. If you don't do 1, 2, 3, these are the incentives, but these are also the penalties. This is what has been done in other countries.
Okay.
They used to call it reciprocal control mechanisms in East Asia. The state will give you certain incentives and say, look, we don't have resources. You must export so and so and so level this year, next year. If you do more, we'll give you more. If you don't, we'll penalize you at this level and at this level. So I think it's all about incentives and penalties for default.
Okay.
And also to create the ecosystem to ensure that, but by the way, also, in our case, because of the wide-scale insecurity, I believe that that's one of the areas that we must be intentional about. After all, households, they protect their own asset. You put people to protect your home, you put CCTV. So I think the assets that we have are the, factories, the farms. There must be an intentional identification of certain clusters in this country where the government will say, this is a no-go area. If you're a bandit, you come there, you get killed. I think we just need to get to that level.
Professor, we're talking about production generally now, farming and all that. Production also makes one think about producing things from factories, producing what we need, what we're going to eat, our food. Some multinationals have had reason to actually pack up and leave Nigeria. How are we going to replace those manufacturing concerns which have left Nigeria so that we can begin to produce those things which they were producing for us?
Yeah. No, I think this is it's a challenge and it's also an opportunity for our country. Folks on the face of it will say, oh, they are leaving because of the challenging effects domain and all of that. Many of the companies also leave for reasons best known to them. Some of them, their business model have changed. I know that 2 of them left at the same time they left Nigeria, they left Kenya, they left a couple of other countries. So it's not just about our challenges. We have our challenges in this country. And we know the most difficult part is electric power, for example. And I think it is a correct thing that this government is putting the focus on it, but it should be done in a very, very radical way. anyone who stands in front of this business should be held accountable. Nigeria cannot be talking about 5,000 megawatts of electricity in 2024. So that the first level, I believe that probably drove some of those companies away in those days was the lack of power, epileptic power. They were incurring too much money, and many of them were spending billions and billions on diesel. So we can mitigate that, and also by using other alternative fuels like compressed natural gas, LPGs. There are technologies now that allow you to run your car in all the three domains of society: transportation, homes, and factories. So factories government needs to provide an enabling environment for these factories to be able to run on cheaper fuel, even as we speak, while they also provide them the environments to ensure that we make the ease of doing business even easier. And this is the soft part of business that people complain about, that we have heard, that we have seen in writing. We need to make life easy for those who are production actors by making sure that all the things that create problems, customs is one of them. I met a young man who was telling me that he used to import a particular intermediate good of almost 17 containers. And one day they hit a wall with some custom officials. And they were asking them for 20 million naira. This fellow, anyway, it took them months and months, they resolved the problem. But I said, so how do you do it now? He said, oh no, I reduced the 17 container to 1. I just try to now produce whatever I can produce here. Every country to produce, you need to import certain things, but not import finished goods. Those who import intermediate goods, for example, are doing their business in a correct way to a time when they can make everything right here. So we shouldn't also discourage those kinds of people who are making effort. He said they nearly killed me. I was paying interest in banks, and I got to a point and said, look, if these people are going to ruin my business, let me just reduce it to a minimum. So by now we're encouraging him, look, please, why don't you just find that factory here? So this is the second point, Alero, that we need the value chain that Ayo talked about. Value chain is about starting from the raw material right to the end of the chain. It is a chain. Value is a chain of activities right from the beginning, different actors, different locations, and ensuring that there is a smooth and harmonious way in which, say, you take cassava in the beginning, or you take cocoa from raw pod of cocoa until you get to chocolate. So along that chain, you have so many actors.
Okay. Now, Prof, on that, my apologies for butting in. On that, it's a chain, and it's understandable.
Yes.
However, you've also identified the challenge of corruption. How do we insulate these systems from corruption? As you said, it's a chain. If we're able to nip it at the beginning, can we be sure that we will not fall victim of this corruption in the chain before we get to the end? And even at the end, how do we ensure that what we started with is exactly what we have at the end? How do we insulate these value chain from corruption so that we can get the desired production value?
That belongs in the domain of government. And you can actually be intentional about it. Many years ago, when we went to train in India, this anecdote I'm telling you will answer that question. I met a very wise and old man who was in that factory. We went to train on the steel industry in India. And we were talking one day, and he was telling me, oh, Banji, we are just because I kept always asking him all kinds of sociological questions. And he said to me, corruption is everywhere. He said in India, At that time, 3/4 of the legislators they would be in jail if they were not in the House. He said, but we realized very early on that we have to insulate some things from this. In fact, he gave me a Hindi phrase, which roughly translates to, we know what not to touch. That was the meaning. I still remember up to today. He said, we know those sectors not to touch. And he reeled out about 5 of them. He said food, medicine, their nuclear program. He said, because if we don't get it right, one day our neighbors, I don't want to mention names, they're going to bomb us to hell. And then he mentioned their space program. He said, it is our ambition, we're a large country, one day to challenge the big powers. He said, so we know among ourselves, those ones that cannot be touched. And this is something that we should look at. In some countries, they call it an elite consensus. The elites have to agree and say that the food sector, the medicine sector, these types of factories, if we catch you doing your corruption there, you will suffer so and so and so. You cannot run without boundaries.
Okay.
So that's that was the lesson of that anecdote the man told me. He said, you have to put the boundaries, Okay. He said, you think we are not as corrupt, we are just as corrupt as you, but we know what we should not touch.
Okay. I think I'm going to come up with my own list. Number 1 should be education. Number 1 should be education, agriculture, technology, medicine, and we'll go to the National Assembly for the next one. I have to thank you very much, Prof. There are a number of people who will be wondering, all these things that this man is saying and that he wrote in his book, From Consumption to Production, are they practicable in Nigeria? Well, that's a matter for another national seminar or national conference. But for now, we have to thank you so much for your time and your thoughts and perspective this morning. Hopefully, someone has been provoked to go into business altogether. Professor Banji Oyelaro Yeyinka is Senior Special Advisor on Industrialization to the President of the Africa Development Bank. He's also author, From Consumption to Production. Thank you so much for your time this morning. So,
thank you very much. Thank you, Ayo. Thank you, Ayo.
Yeah. So we're back in a moment to take on another issue somewhat related. We'll be right back.
Taste. We are passionate about 2 things in Nigeria. The first is football. The second is our rice. And nobody celebrates like a Nigerian. So, for every goal scored, every mark made, you can be sure to always come back home to rice. Celebrate with Nigerian Premium Big Bull Rice, homegrown just like you. Big Bull Rice, tasty rice, nourished you.
In a world hungry for goodness, with a splash of golden Terra oil, a mom can transform a frown into a smile. Make a lunch hour a happy hour. change, no thanks, into yes, please, provide care when our nearest and dearest needs it most, and resolve family feuds without blowing a whistle. Providing tasty, nourishing family meals is all that matters. The world needs moms, because where there are moms, there is hope, happiness, and love. Golden Terra Oil, for pure love.
Labour Party, Oludi, Labour Party, Oludi, Oludi, Labour Party, who's your guy? Now Olumide Akpata, Oludi, see us we dey like beans and rice. Labour Party, I will never leave your side. I will never ever. I dedicate my time, forever, time to you, my people. Even if the road be rough, I know mine. Cause together we shall stand. Oludi, Labour Party, who's your guy? Now Olumide Akpata, there you go. See us we dey like beans and rice. Cause together we shall stand.
Imagine lovely meals you can cook with these ingredients. You spend heavily, but no guarantee of a tasty meal. Not making a right choice of seasoning cube can ruin your meal, money, and confidence. For a tasty meal, do not compromise. Choose Gold.
Use Terra Gold for the rich, consistent taste your loved ones crave for. Good for soups, stews, and jollof. Terra Gold. One cube, endless possibilities.
Where's Glory? Excuse me, ma'am.
Hello! Where Glow now?
Are they here?
Glow don't go village, tell all our customer abi.
Everybody pay attention. See, now Glow berekete 10x. Now him might they take tension my customers. Now they dash me 10 times the credits when I load. Or even summer me double data join.
Yeah. Wait, so with 1.5 when they give on the boss, so you they enjoy up to
15,000 naira credit and data. And I say I never finish you. See, when I say if we enjoy, if we join Glow berekete 10x, when I go get 1,000 naira welcome credits. Finish.
Glow, you don't win.
Una see they here. Hello, please, I'm looking for Glow. Please save now Glow be dey fine. Now Glow be dey go. Okay, so
enjoy 10 times the value of your recharge on Glow berekete 10x. You also get 1,000 naira for calls and data and double data bonus on your subscription.
You the help my business, you the bless me. When I don't get the money, you supply the money. Hey, Papa, oh, you be your mini correct. Try, I see Munu Kubarayaka, Nigi your man, Eje Tobi Sika, mini correct. I don't care what you dance, what you dance. Try, let one do it, let the very go.
Manye Obioma, Inamanya Niru, Ochochi, Manudumini, Manokochi, Avora Neme, Abusochi, Ebubedike, Kamna Bogi, when baby gave you Otswakogadi, 9 the bless you steadily. Shagun will be different stone, eternally. Chilling big, not send the enemy. Do the 1 2 step, sons of liberty. Morire, Mokana Mosoji, Bolongo Kiri, Biajeri, Bomutembi, Aramonda Mani, Kishamokiche, Oluwani.
Back to agriculture.
Thank you for staying with us. My partner just muttered under his breath, we're back to agriculture. We have to feed ourselves as Nigerians.
You just remind me of that song by Chief Commander Ebenezer Obey in the 90s.
Which said?
In the 80s, or late 70s, early 90s.
Which said?
Operation Feed the Nation.
Oh. And we're still talking about that in 2024. How we're going to be able to feed. Our population is growing. Nobody wants to go to the farm. And yet we all have to eat to survive. Now we're looking at the poultry side of it now. The Poultry Association of Nigeria have called for an urgent intervention by the president himself, Bola Tinubu, or his administration rather, on the astronomical hike in the cost of poultry feeds. The association said that failure of government to take urgent action to mitigate this challenge would lead to total collapse of poultry subsector of the economy. The association frowned at the perpetual hike in price of feed, adding that government could intervene by giving grants to farmers in order for them to remain in business. The Poultry Association says the basic intervention its members need is grants, not loans, to sustain the industry, because over time farmers have lost a lot of money. So if they're taking loans now, they will not be able to pay back these loans. My first paragraph was scary, that we're not going to get chickens to eat, that it may lead to the total collapse of this sector. Anyway, the Director General, Poultry Association of Nigeria, is joining us virtually, Dr. Onalu Akpa.
But we only have Mr. Boazo with us this morning. You want to remember him?
Dr. Usman Gwazo.
Yeah.
He is the chairman of the Kano State chapter of the Poultry Association of Nigeria. Thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure.
Yes, sir. We have some rather frightening figures here, and I am sure that these are the figures that affected us being able to eat chicken like we normally did during the Christmas period. We were buying chickens at 8,000, 9,000 naira, whereas chickens used to be, what, 3,000, 4,000 a piece. They said that feeds went up from 8,000 at the end of November to 9,000 in the first week of December. And then by the second week, it had gone up to 9,500 naira. what exactly is going on? Why are these prices rising like every other day?
Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure having you this morning. As you introduce me, I lead the poultry farmers in Kano, northwestern Nigeria. It's really scary the way you put it. When you look at the trend, in some part of the country, it is more than what you expect. The main ingredients which we use to produce these poultry feeds are maize and soya. And if you look at how soya is, around June, we are buying a ton at about 320,000 naira per ton. Now it has escalated this week to 500,000 naira per ton. Maize, which contribute to over 50% of the poultry feed, is now even scarce to get. At the early part of this, at the end of the rainy season, it was at 320,000 naira per ton. Now we are talking about 500,000 naira per ton. So when you look at these two parameters, it was close to over 100% increase. You notice why the feed is increasing. And the most scariest part of the situation is we are not just far away from the harvest period. And we are trying, if you look at how the economy has dealt with the industry starting from February last year to now, with complications of one business into another and the scarcity of the input, you will see the trend is moving to the extent where the farmers cannot bear the shock anymore. Poultry farms are closing. In northwestern Nigeria, you are talking about close to 80% of the farms have closed. And the remaining are struggling to survive, just trying to be in the business because it has been part of their life. So with this increase, the fear is not only what you narrated of high cost, but we may end up not having even chicken and egg in just any moment from now. You will start looking for egg and chicken and you will not get it anywhere because farmers can no longer sustain the business.
Mr. Guazo, is all our maize important? I thought we produce a substantial amount of maize locally.
Sure, but if you look at the major states that produce maize are now facing a lot of security challenges. So there's a decrease in production. In 2022, you are talking about underproduction by over 400,000 metric tons of maize. And the government didn't do anything to bridge that gap. And the situation continues this year. I'm sure if you go to market, you will hear how people are crying about the price of maize. A bag of maize, which was 17,000 naira some time ago, now is talking about 50,000 naira.
80.
So this indicates...
Did you say 80?
And you know how loose our borders is up north. The maize is going out, but nothing comes in.
Well, Dr. Guazo, is there any way that some of these prices, okay, maybe I should put it this way. What are the factors that you can adduce as being responsible for this, the increase in the prices of the feed that you have to work with?
Number one, there are already, I mentioned one, which is security. People need to go to the farm. Now they don't have access to the farms. Number two, the major producers previously rely on banks. Now banks are not interested much in giving agricultural loans to the farmers. And where they give is at the rate where the farmers cannot recover and pay the interest. Number three, the attention which government give to agriculture. If you look at when you're talking about subsidy in Nigeria, the main mention of the word subsidy, it is as if you are just talking about the oil sector. There is no subsidy, active subsidy going on in the agriculture sector, both in the production of the grains and also we in the poultry industry. Then number 4, you are talking about loose borders. Our currency is going down every day, so it's easier just for somebody to take maize outside the country and make a huge profit. And you know how loose our borders are. Then number 5, this maize which we are using and soya, you have a massive exportation of soya to Europe, to Americas. Then in-house, there is a competition on the demand of maize. Human beings consume maize. Industries that process other items are also looking for maize. Breweries consume a lot of that. So these are the main factors which we are not paying attention to, but now it's leading to a catastrophic result, especially we in the poultry industry.
But Dr. Gwazo, there are those who would wonder, for instance, how strong is your association? Because, for instance, some people will be wondering, why not as an association approach maybe the states to have some kind of partnership, to create your own commercial maize farms? By that, I mean, there are those who wonder that a lot of bottlenecks will be cut off by that. You'll be in partnership with the states.
National president will be in the better position, but let me give you how strong our association is. This is an association which has membership in all the 36 states and FCT. We have state chapters. We have national leadership led by Chief Sunday. We have Onado Apa, which coordinates as a DG, and thousands of members. Among these our members, anybody who retire from politics, anybody who retire from academia, businessmen, high-placed individual, you on the end of either going back to farm or to religious institution.
Good.
So poultry industry, you have a lot of this high.
Fantastic, Dr. Gwazo. So then it should be easier for your association to partner with states to get your own commercial
where
farms.
I'm taking you.
Yes.
That is where I'm taking you to.
Okay.
If you go down the states, we keep on engaging. But when you are talking about business, government look at it as a profit-making industry and should sustain itself through banks. Unlike other type of business which you can take the price anyhow, poultry is not like that. We engage government. Some government are very responsive. We sat down, we discussed. Recently, like a year ago, there was even some response from CBN to release some maize. Now we are dealing with APAN, Association of Poultry, All Farmers Association of Nigeria, who are into this grain production to see how we can work together. But when the production failed to meet the demand, this is the consequences we are facing now.
Okay.
I'm sure Chief Sunday and Dr. Onalo can add to what they're doing at the center, but I'm giving you the experience from the states where it's not easy to even bring government to have good understanding of how important it is to put contribution into the production of grains, especially for our consumption.
But the challenge that you have mentioned now, if you can speak to your own experience in Kano State, your own engagement, because I feel that if the states, for instance, know that the chicken will be cheaper, eggs will be cheaper in Kano State in the long run, for instance, maybe around Easter or sometime further during Ramadan and all, they would know that it's also in their own informed, or should I say, enlightened self-interest to ensure that these things happen. Plus, my apology, just a second, added to the fact that you said that a good number of your members are from the public service, either as politicians or civil servants. So they should have enough influence to persuade their colleagues in government that, look, this thing, you are also coming back to meet us later.
Sure. Let me give you an example of what effort we did in Kano. With the coming of this new government, just around June, July, we had meetings with the highest level. That is the governor, who was represented by the deputy governor and commissioner of agriculture. And we sat down to itemize each and every area of concern and what is the solutions to this. Let me highlight one, the issue of the feeds. We come up with plan, and the government develop interest. We develop a concept note on how we are going to address this issue of maize. The second one, another area of value chain, the government come with agenda of youth empowerment. We have demonstrated to them how it is important to come into. But an industry which has so many people along the value chain, sometimes government find it difficult to say, okay, which one are we going to deal with? We were consumers of grain. There's another association which are producing the grain. How can these two associations work together? And that is what we are doing now with the Kano State government. And they have really demonstrated interest. Probably we may start seeing something come out. But if you look at it, one state cannot do much. For example, if Kano intervene and is producing maize, it's an open market, as if they are producing for northern Nigeria. And when you go to Kano, you keep on seeing maize moving to West African countries. You will see moving to southern part of the state country. So it's difficult for one state to take that. And I think in your opening remark, there is emphasis on the need for president to do much in this area. This requires a national attention. The farmers have already found themselves deep into the problem. They cannot, even banks now cannot salvage this industry with the rate at which people are paying interest. Government need to come either in form of grants, government need to come to subsidize this product, and looking into the size of this industry, it is very essential for Mr. President to...
Dr. Gwazo, this is not the first time we're talking about feeds and how the price is escalating. I see a paradox here. You just spoke about maize being produced and being exported. Maize is being exported and maize is being imported to make chicken feed. What exactly is going on?
That is absence of regulation. If government at the center have put a strong regulation, we will not have this issue of in, out, in, out. You will use the hard-earned dollars to bring maize, while another set of people, just like what was happening in petrol, you are importing fuel through the sea and it's going out through the land. So it's the same equation, which if we didn't take the bull by the horn, the situation will not change.
Well, all we can do now is wish the association all the best in this intervention that it is seeking with the government, because chicken is something that a lot of Nigerians value as part of their diet, and it will be nasty for us not to have eggs and not to have chicken. So, Dr. Gwazo, we wish you all the best. Dr. Usman Gwazo, Chairman, Kano State Chapter, Poultry Association of Nigeria. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
We have to also underscore that there are other people who are supposed to join us were not able to join us for some tech challenges on their own end. And this is an ongoing conversation. This chicken matter is not a chicken matter.
It's not a chicken matter at all. It's very, very important because we all need eggs. Our children need eggs to grow up properly, and we need eggs to remain healthy. Sunrise will return in just a moment, and we'll be going to the lifestyle discussion.
After all I've been through, I'm still standing. Time goes by, days turn into weeks. As much as I think
like before. Your love came in and opened doors. It's plain to me, clearly I see that without a doubt, you know what's best for me. Hey, no one could ever take your place. And
Thank you for staying with us. I want to talk about this we started earlier on the program by talking about the occurrence in Ibadan. To date, I think the government put out the figures of about 5 lives lost and several properties damaged. A host of people
still in hospital.
Some may never be able to get their lives back on stream again. And when things like this happen, naturally people look to government. But after that, at the end of each day, everyone goes to a home and they sleep alone by themselves. Everyone to their pillows. Those who would cry, those who would moan.
To your tent, O Israel.
Exactly. And, those who have lost their livelihoods, lost certificates, may never be able to literally completely changed lives altogether. So now, on the one hand, we all know what happened. We've recorded some of these things, but then there is something they call collective grief. I was hearing it for the first time. You are probably hearing it for the first time as well. What does this mean? Let's talk to a grief counselor this morning. Joan Wande is a grief counselor, and she'll take us through what they call collective grief. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
The Ibadan occurrence is a very touching one. And every time I have to talk to any guest from that side, first thing I'm saying is condolences, because the authorities have to deal with the challenges and all. But talk to us about this collective grief thing. What is it?
Okay. First and foremost, let me, say my condolence to the people of Ibadan, especially the Bodija community. So basically, collective grief is just when a group of people, a community, a nation, or a society experiences extreme change or loss. So that's basically as simple as that. So it has the difference with the normal grief is that it's unique. Every grief is unique to the individual. So the collective grief is unique, but is also shared amongst a large group of people. So that's basically
like what has happened in Ibadan.
Yes, like what has happened in Ibadan now. That's what we call collective grief. So it's affecting a neighborhood, a group of people, a state also, and you could extend it to Nigeria.
The nation.
Yes, the nation at large.
Okay, so how can you grieve collectively?
Okay. So the people in Bodija or Ibadan, they can come together, like that environment, they can come together, they can, meet and discourse, because now I've lost my house, you've lost your house, you can understand what we're both going through.
We're both feeling.
At this time,
yes.
exactly, I'm homeless. We're both homeless, so you would understand what I'm going through. So they can actually come together, meet. They can grieve that way. They can also, if they don't want to, they can look for support groups, maybe online, They can go see a professional, and they can take up an advocacy with the government, saying, such things, this illegal kind of things shouldn't go on anymore. So it's like a course you take on, and so...
How does that differ from pity party?
No, this is way different from pity party. We've both experienced this kind of loss together, So I'm not.
So we're having collective pity party.
Not really pity party. It's like, okay, having a shoulder to lean on, especially when someone has gone through what you've gone through, is quite soothing, because it's like I'm either letting out my emotions and you just let me be. You're not saying
because you understand.
Because
you have gone through the same thing,
or you are going
exactly,
through what
or you're going through.
through.
Yes,
Okay.
you know. So you feel how it pinches not to have. You went out and you came back and there's no roof over your head. You know what it is for. Some people have lost. You mentioned it already. Those certificates. There's loss of security and safety. Those are abstract losses. Loss of unfulfilled expectations. So maybe the house we had was something I'm going to retire into, and now it's gone.
Or something you have retired
or you've retired into, or what you want to pass over to your children. Yes. Not even with the economy right now. Where are you going to start from? So if we're talking about it, it's more soothing, to talk to someone who is in that shoe, who has been through, So,
one of the things that you told us the first time we had this conversation about grief, it's a dark subject, so to speak. So generally, talking about it may not be quite exciting for people, but it is the reality that people have to go through. First of all, tell us what the consequences are of improper grieving. What are the consequences of not grieving the way
you should not process your grief? Yes.
And what are the consequences of doing what we shouldn't do in this particular process? There are those who say, one of the ways that people grieve culturally is to have criers. I don't know what the
mourners.
Mourners, thank you. They just go, they cry, and that is it. So what are the consequences of not grieving properly?
Okay, well, when you don't process your grief, in the right way or properly, it has the tendency to affect your mental health, affect you emotionally, and affect you physiologically. You could have, science says about 80% of the diseases we have are from our emotions. So when you don't process those emotions and you just put it all in, you express it. You don't have to cry, but you could go, you're going through anger. There are ways to express, healthy ways to express your anger, and not expressing it has negative effects. So what I would say to people right now, in Ibadan, and even if you're around the world, you're grieving, is express your grief in a healthy way. You could journal, you could listen to music, or rather get into therapy.
We'll come to the proper ways of grieving, but I would like you to expatiate further on the consequences. You've talked about the capacity for it to affect our mental health. Please speak to that more. You see, as you said, people want to just suck it up and move on, not knowing that we're literally postponing the evil day.
Exactly.
And that's what I'd like you to we'll come to how to do it properly. But what are the consequences? Let people know the consequences, the mental consequences you said, and the physiological.
The physiological, yes.
Talk to us about it further.
Yeah, of course. So if, you're having mental health issues, you are not able to function properly, as the way optimally, the way you should function, either as an individual or in an organization, or as a family. So that you have to pay, attention, because it's very key. That's what moves us, our emotions and all of that. And if you don't, subconsciously, you begin to react to people around you, and you pour the frustration on people. So sometimes that could come out as masked grief, So seeing a professional, you'll be able to dig in to know all of these things. And sometimes, physiologically, your blood pressure could go up. You know, you just see that. Stress. You know, and then you're going to the hospital every time, and they're like, "There's nothing wrong with you. There's not, but it's stress. You're emotionally stressed. You know, your what's it called? Your high blood pressure. Sugar level could go up. Irritable bowel syndrome, sleepless nights. You know, because
so the entire body system is
affected. Yes, because you see. Your mental health, it affects, if your sleep is affected, for instance now, like what they've gone through, people are having sleepless nights or either insomnia or not even being able to sleep. Now, that also...
nightmares and all.
Exactly. Of course, you would have intrusive, especially if you were, there was somebody who said the mother was on the bed and the ceiling fell on her. She was rushed to the hospital naked, you know. So she could have intrusive thoughts coming in and she probably jolts out of sleep and all of that. Now, that begins to affect you, you know, your ability to function properly. And when that does, you're not able to, of course, function well, and then affects your health in general.
Okay, all right. Okay.
Let me take you back. You keep saying, we keep saying, grieve. Are there different ways of grieving? Some people will sit down and not talk to anybody for days.
Yeah, sure.
And it will be because they are grieving. Some others will cry from morning till night every day. So, what ways are there of grieving?
There are different ways, and there's no right or wrong way to grieve. It is only when it's becoming unhealthy or it's hindering your everyday life, you know, activity. That's when you need to check in, you know,
to see a specialist.
To see a specialist, you know, maybe a psychologist or something, you know. Of course, maybe some people could have seen a counselor or a therapist, but it's not, they're not getting better. It's still affecting them. So like you said, there's no right way or wrong way to grieve. So however you feel like expressing yourself in a healthy way, because some people could turn to drugs and alcohol, and that's not healthy, you know. So you could cry, you could write, you could journal, you know, you could listen to music, you could get into your faith, whatever you believe in at that time. Just strength, friends, talk therapy is quite therapeutic too. Walk in nature, you know, and just let yourself be. So it depends on your individual, how you are. So you can't practically say right now that this is the way you should grieve. So,
yeah, but would you advise crying?
Oh yes,
because
if you're given to crying,
somebody lost a child,
and they haven't been able to cry.
His only son, and he wasn't able to cry. I just felt.
He hasn't grieved.
It's okay to... No, not...
Okay.
It's okay to let it out. If you don't want to be seen because you're a man, you can lock yourself up in your room and just let it all out.
And he's not doing that. And he might not even have to do that, honestly. He might not even have to cry. But if he has other ways, and you see, then this is where a professional comes in to work with him. If there are other healthy ways you can grieve. So he might not, some people are not given to crying at all. You know, it just doesn't come. It might not come immediately. It might come 2 years later. And you just...
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
As long as 2 years after.
Oh, yes. Yes. You know, I mean, I had a lecturer say, I mean, she's also a grief, you know, specialist. And she said after her grandmom died, she just moved on with life. She knew, she went for the funeral, everything, she was buried. And 2 years after, she was on the highway somewhere in the US. And it just occurred to her and she broke down on the highway. She had to park her car. And that's when she let it out. And when she called her dad was like, yes, we've been waiting for you. You know, so sometimes people just need their space, but just ensure that it is not affecting them. I mean, they have to be willing also to see a specialist to say, okay, these are things, yes, and then recommendations can be made. There's no one size fits all.
Okay. Now, there are those who will go to these people who are grieving, unfortunately, and begin to tell them it is God that did it, you know, the kind of things. Okay, so let me just ask, what are the things people should not say to those who are grieving now?
Oh, okay. I think one of the favorites is be strong. Right now. How do you want to tell?
That's not what you want to hear.
No, that's not what you want to hear. Be strong. How can I be strong? How? I've lost my property. I've lost maybe lives. Lives were also lost in the Ibadan explosion. I can't find my bearing right now. I'm confused.
I have no home.
I don't have a home. What am I strong about?
Yeah.
What am I going to be strong about? Oh, it is well. Yes, we understand, like I always say, the thing behind that, it is well, but
it is not well.
Right now, it ain't well. It's not well with me. It's not well with my family. You're not prophesying doom. Because that's how you accept reality, and come to terms with it. So, I mean, and then tell people, if you need anything, call me. They're not going to call you. 70-80% of mourners or grievers, they don't call because they ask, like I said, there's what they call the grief brain, where you have brain fog and all of that. You don't remember things. They don't even, all they know is sometimes maybe they fall asleep, and some don't even fall asleep, and they're just moving, like they're an autopilot. So you take the initiative. I remember when a friend's house got burnt, I think 2019, and we were all outside, and she was just looking. There were so many people. Everybody was talking. I hadn't even, started on this journey of mine. And I just said, her house got burnt. Tonight, they have to sleep. So they need pajamas, they need towel, they need toothbrush, the kids. So I ran home from my own stuff. I just packed. And she was like, thank you, thank you. Because that's it. So take the initiative. They've lost a home right now. I know the your state government said they were going to provide accommodation for them.
They already did. They sent them to hotels.
Hotels. Yeah, so some people might not even like the hotels. So you're like, okay, you have a spare room. Do you want to come? Your kids, taking the kids to school. Okay, what are they going to do? So think for them. Think ahead. And like I always say, and I mean, this is so dear to me. When I lost my mom, I didn't realize I was going to be needing food in the house, soup, and a friend cooked a cooler of stew, and that's when I was like, oh, that's true. I actually need food.
Still going to eat.
Because I was so focused on, okay, she's dead, what's the next thing? I need to bury her. So right now, they're probably like, oh, my certificate, my passport, my bank. So just, you take the initiative and be there for them.
Okay. Now, you're talking about collective grief now. The people who are in this space, as you said, they have a brain fog right now. They cannot think of collecting ourselves for grief. So who is going to do the thinking for them?
Well, their immediate, maybe friends, family members, relations, and their community, maybe church or mosque and things like that, could come together for them. Like I said, collective grief is unique, at the same time it's shared. So in your own little space, reach out to them. So you have friends who's lost their homes. Probably they don't even have money or something. Just do your own bit to give them succor in a way at this time. Okay. And then for the people, of course, who are in this, what they can do to move forward with life is, you pick up the pieces is one day at a time. Like I always tell my clients, is one day. Sometimes I even say it's an hour at a time. Don't think of 24 hours because it can be very daunting and you could just paralyze you, so take it, okay, what am I going to do today? What's within your control? So if, let's say, for instance, your certificate or your passport was in that, all the trash and all of that now, okay, so what can I do? Can I begin to go on the internet, the school? How can I do that? If it's so important to you, you know, just the bits you can start with. Is it to go and start buying clothes now? You know, is it to start looking for accommodation?
Okay.
You know.
Well, it's a lot to unpack. Do you think technology can help in this process?
Oh yes.
How?
I mean, call them, send messages, you know, and all of that.
I'm talking about, do you think they can e-grief?
Oh yeah, people do that. People come and they create a page and they process their grief.
Group.
Yeah, no, especially on Instagram. You know, I see them a lot on Instagram. They create a page for themselves and they're talking about their grief, and people are following them. Yeah, so you can do that if that's the way you want to express your grief.
If it helps them.
If it helps them to, you know, unburden.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's that's the underlying word there, unburden.
Unburden, yes, and unpack what you're going through. Yeah.
John Pandey, grief counselor, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you
and
for having
your
me.
thoughtfulness
Thank
about
you.
this. Okay, home stretch coming next. And that's when you talk about the he, Abby.
Yes. the he will be with us in just a moment. Please stay with us.
Come on, worship him. Let the nations rise and worship him. He is the unquestionable. Woo! Come on! Hey, you parted the Red Sea, unquestionable. You raised the dead, unquestionable. You moved mountains, unquestionable. You are the God who stretched out the heavens and the earth. You are simply the heavyweight champion of the world. Hallelujah.
Consider that what you have just seen is a world premiere. Yes. But who is the artist?
Is that how to let the cat out of the bag?
The cat is in e-bag.
Yes. World premiere of the vocal coach, the music director, the gospel singer, the songwriter, Olusegun Adepele Leyinde Obe.
No, just imagine the drum roll.
Drum roll.
No. Just imagine it.
Imagine it.
Oh, imagine that.
Let me channel my inner.
Imagine that.
Yeah, I've imagined. Good morning.
Morning,
Good to be here. I feel like
you.
With my long lost family. It's been a while I've been out here.
We haven't seen you in a while.
Yes.
And we haven't heard of you in a while.
True.
Well, I can't start with that question.
Well, the last time he was here was 2020, we first edition of DSS.
Yes.
Oh, then you were on that world tour.
That's it. I actually performed.
Okay, you did.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not so long ago then.
Well, it is long
I
enough.
haven't seen you.
That's right.
In a long
so
time
good
because
to
I
see
wasn't
you.
at that DSS.
Yes.
Good to see you again.
Thank
now,
you so much.
My partner, who couldn't keep his mouth shut,
I couldn't.
said that was a world premiere. What is that?
I'll just start this way and say, for a while, for about almost 6-7 years, nearing 8 years now, I have not done any musical project at all. And it's deliberate. In life, you cannot just keep going until you get burnt out. There must be a time you have to stop and say, listen, boy, what next?
Why?
Because the truth is, you're getting older. The bills have to be paid. So many factors, even your mental health is also
somehow
important.
The bills are rising?
They are rising. The price of petrol and come on. I'm thinking.
We just got done talking about chicken.
Just to drive from one place to the next. Then the fuel goes so fast these days. Have you noticed? By the time you're moving, it's gone.
Yes.
Don't worry, we are creating the African version petrol.
No, we will use CNG.
African petrol. Dangote petrol is African.
African petrol.
So I have not really been quiet. I have just reinvented the brand Segun Obe. I'm a voice coach, like you rightly pointed out earlier. And I think I kind of embraced that part of me all of these years. So I train choirs, I train individuals. If you're a group and you want to, know how to sing better, I've done it for way over 2 decades now, way over. And I say that, with all humility. So I feel like at this point, rather than just going on, I need to stop and train other people. Look out for those who are coming up behind and just encourage them as well. So I've been behind the scenes pretty much. I've been training choirs, training individuals. Doing that has helped me to also know that you don't always have to be in front of the cameras, but it's good to be back.
So why this approach to getting back before the camera?
For me, first of all, I want to say that this approach because I am a worshiper of God. Before anything, I am a worship leader. Before you call me a gospel artist, there's a difference, by the way. A lot of people just match the thing together. Gospel artist, worshiper. I'm a worship leader. It means that in a place where you gather people, I lead worship. I literally take you to the presence of God. A gospel artist can come sing his latest song or his very well-known song and disappear. But a worshiper, it takes you there to God's presence. I'm a worshiper. And I just feel like another thing I want to point out before is this. People go into this music thing because of the money, to make money. That's good. But I'm here because it's a calling. And this is where the difference between who is called and who came for the money. Even when there was no money in this industry, I don't know if there's you could call it a gospel industry. I've always been here.
And
so now that there is money in it, you're also
we
there.
are here. But I'm not, because of the fact that I wasn't motivated by money in the first place. If it comes, hallelujah. If it doesn't come, I will keep worshiping God. So it's about a calling.
Did you study music?
No, I didn't. I actually studied computer engineering. So, but it was just, and I didn't really stay there for too long. I just studied it and ran away because music had consumed me from when I was little. I think I started just like MJ, Michael Jackson. I started singing from very, very little. You know my brother Tunde Obe, obviously, you know, we used to go out. He would take me out to these amazing places those days, and we would just go sneak out of the house basically and put a pillow in the place where we were meant to be and run out of the house and do these all-night gigs back then. I didn't enjoy the gigs. All I wanted to do was sing. And thank God I'm doing it for Jesus now.
Now that you have exposed him, he's next. Today we are coming for you.
Oh, boy.
You and TWO. The two of you two. Coming for you.
So you studied computer engineering. Then as soon as you got the certificate, you probably just took it home and tossed it in mom and dad's.
I don't even
This
remember.
is for you.
I don't even know.
I'm out of here.
I don't even know where it is.
So when you started doing this and you told your mother, because boys always bond with their mothers more, and you told your mother, what was her reaction?
She didn't get it. Obviously, at the time, music now.
Do you blame her?
If you say an artist now or footballer now,
they will understand. Yes, yes.
Or a comedian.
In fact, they will encourage you.
Or a comedian.
When I was growing up, it wasn't like that. So you had to pretty much be. I mean, because you had to be doctor. Those days, you say, doctor. Let me say in Yoruba, mommy, I the doctor, I the lawyer. Those are the. In fact, you got it there. That's the next one they always come. After doctor, it's lawyer. I said to myself, man, I have this gift, and I feel like it's going to take me all over the world. I feel like it's going to open doors for me. I knew from when I was little, so I kept at it. And do I say I'm glad I kept at it? Yup. But the challenge is, let me not now paint a picture of everything has been hunky-dory. That's a long time I heard that word, hunky-dory. Everything has been rosy and butterflies. No. There have been challenges. There have been times I've had to stop and ask myself, boy, are you sure this is what you're supposed to be doing? But in those moments, it just kind of reminds you that God is the author of everything. It's not you. It's not about me.
So
it really is about Him.
Mom's now in your corner, right?
She's late now, but she was. I remember the first time she saw me sing at it was a church, and they invited her. So she sat in the congregation, and I went up stage, and I sang a song that by the time I was done, when I was rounding up, I just looked up and I saw her. Her face was full of tears. Tears of joy. Like, wow. Because she hadn't gotten it all this time. And then now she can see what I've been told. All those rehearsals. Mommy, I'm going for rehearsals. Mommy, I'm going to. Wow, my son. You know, if I'm not a parent yet, I intend to be soon, but I can imagine how that will feel.
Come on, you cannot imagine it yet. I assure you.
Let me not imagine it. But
I assure you.
She definitely now started, go to rehearsal. You are running late. She now started hustling me to go. I mean, before she passed, she was Team Shegun.
Perhaps that, don't worry, Alero will recover from that over a little while. She's still smothering that particular emotion. See how she's screaming? Okay, but talk to us about the journey.
Mothers.
We love them.
That's how we are.
Mothers.
That's how God created us.
My goodness.
You know that she's a tough person, right? You just
no. You can tell she's for somebody to hold it down. I've known Auntie for years, and consistency. I know it's not about her, but let's make this moment. So the consistency, man, I salute. And let me just do that. I'm down.
She will become our artist of the week one of these days.
It's not easy, and I know that if I probably want to sit down with her, maybe over a cup of tea or something, and listen to her story. I'm sure it will be inspiring. I like inspirational.
Don't worry.
So,
I can write.
You are the guest. Thank you very much.
Back here.
I can write a pamphlet on that one for now, not a book. Okay. But talk to us about the journey.
Yeah.
From obscurity to celebrity, so to speak. From immaturity or amateur to pro. Tell us about the journey.
No, that's a slopey road. Okay. I really, taking it back, I was a rookie in every sense of the word. A rookie being that, you don't know anything about anything. At some point, you join record labels that you didn't understand what you were signing. I went through that where
because you just wanted to blow.
And then till today, I didn't even get 1 naira I didn't get even 500 naira of whatever it was I did not sell. Which, I mean, there's no artist that doesn't sell anything. No matter how, except you're really whack. I mean, there's no way you will not sell something. And as I sit here, not a dime has come to me. Where is it? So I went through all of that. I went through the times where I thought my style was the best. You go through that stage where the people will calm you down. You'll be singing. I remember when I started, there's this ability I have. In music, we call it inflections, where you kind of, let me just use the layman language, you twist your voice a lot. I still do it, but over time you realize that you don't need to apply that too much. And every single line, and even though it sounds nice, now I do that, I'm like, ooh, I used to be that boy. That when you give me a mic, I'm just going, It sounds good to me and it sounds good to a musician, but to a person who is selling
but
pepper on the road.
musicians do it all the time.
Oh,
that's the Fuji.
That's different. That's different.
How's it different? It's bending.
It's part of the music. That is embedded in the music. Now I'm going to you're taking me to my voice coach mode now. But it's embedded in the style of music, in the genre.
Okay.
Yes.
However, I used to do R&B before I became a Christian. So I used to listen to R. Kelly a lot and all those guys. So I think I kind of got all of that from there.
Okay.
But now I've been able to.
Now that you're mature.
Yeah, especially when you record, you don't have to really do too much. People want to listen to your song and just go in the spirit.
Before you continue the journey of Shegun, let's dwell on that for a tiny bit. Okay. A bit of education from you to music lovers.
Good.
African music tends to have that culture of pitch bending.
Yeah.
I mean, raw, deep African music.
True.
The Sakaras, the Akbalas, the Fujis and all those things, those ones.
Yeah.
Without the Western accompaniments.
Good.
And then there are some religious practices that also have those tendencies, particularly people from the north. They have those. That Maraj is playing in my head right now.
Yes.
And then so those things are embedded
elements,
in some African music, aren't they?
So they are. And it was just like you were in my brain this morning when I was getting ready to come out to this place. And I thought I don't want to mention brands so that I don't, but there's a keyboard company that tried to take percussion and melee and put it in keyboard.
Well.
And then you want to sit down and tell me to start recording and then you'll be playing on the keyboard when I have Babarisi and it doesn't even, it can never sound. I don't care how much you sample those instruments. It can never sound like the real thing. I've listened to productions that they did with this, what do you call these things that they put on the keyboard. Lovely concept. I get it. They're just trying to say, okay, if we can have guitar, if we can have, let's also have. It's unique, and you see the Africanness. I love Africa. I was born in the United States. I live here because I could as well say I wanted. No, you see, there's something unique about the African.
You're not jackpine.
No, maybe.
Is it yes or no?
Not fueling. Let me go back to the point. Before you hold me, I say, hey, Chego obeys jackpine. But the thing I'm trying to say is, it's so unique, and I pray that we actually give a white man talking drum to play.
Well, some of them learn now.
They learn, but they can't. You see, there's some things they will still leave out.
Oh,
do you understand? There'll still be some. Because talking drum is supposed
that are too deep
interpret, yes,
for them to understand
what you're saying.
So the percussion in African percussions are almost the same as African voices and singing.
Basically.
Oh, okay, all right.
That also, which is why I said all those inflections, it's natural.
Okay.
You don't take. In fact, if you take those vocal inflections away from all those traditionals, you've killed the spirit of the music.
So you can't put a Kollington song, for instance, in a choir.
Nice. Yeah, and you can sing. That's good.
No.
He can't. He's
all of the inflections is gone.
He's fooling you.
But you've changed it, and what you've done now is you've turned it to something else.
That's my point. That's the point that I'm making. It will not be the original thing. Okay, let's go back to the story. You have only 3 minutes to finish this story.
So what was okay? So basically, I mean, rounding up by just saying that story, of course, that it's been a journey of ups and downs, just like everybody else. In any profession you find yourself, you always have those moments where you felt like people cheated you. You didn't know. In fact, sometimes I get I sit down and I'm like, oh, did I say that? Maybe there's a meeting and they wanted to work with you on something and you just said something that you were not even supposed to say in the room. Now I understand rooms. There's some rooms you sit, just don't say a word.
Okay.
Just observe like you don't know nothing.
Yes, no, okay.
There was just to round up, there was a place I entered, I won't be specific, and I was just talking, blah.
Displaying
and they just, right there, disapproved my whatever to work with them. It was later somebody came to me and said, guy, sometimes just keep quiet.
Talk to us about mentorship in the industry.
I can talk, about this because I've actually been in there for, like I said, this break that I've had. So I can talk authoritatively. For me, mentorship is just about, and a lot of mentors, let me say this, a lot of mentors are tormentors. In the sense that they want their proteges or people that they're raising to remain permanently under them. And once they start to grow to a certain extent and it looks like they are coming towards where they are, well, I go there. So, and I don't believe in that. I believe a good mentor will always raise people. If
higher
than you, it's to your credit. You did that.
Because they'll always reference you.
Yes. Except they are ungrateful people. If they're ungrateful, it's on them.
Yeah.
But you do your job as a mentor.
Okay.
Did this mentorship thing start from when you took part when you were involved in Nigerian Idol?
You know about that?
Yes, I do.
It started way before. So Nigerian Idols kind of just helped me to all that I've been doing in the corners. One church here, one small. I now had a collective of vocals that I could now sit down and be the voice coach over. That was beautiful because that gave me the opportunity to actually, on a big scale, on a big stage, now show myself all these things where you think say you don't do. Are you really that good? And even though I say it to myself, I try.
Everyone tries. Who will hold that against you?
So, do you still follow Nigerian Idols now so that you can select the ones that you think that you can coach to become better singers?
I like that. I like better. You see, because when you when you're in that place, the tendency to want to move towards one person and say, I like this one better than the rest, would jump on you, but you have to resist it. Otherwise, you wouldn't train them
equally.
Oh, it's good to go to school. So basically, for me, I just feel like it's I can watch the show and just be, yeah, I like that. Because I'm not going to attach myself to any particular person. And I learned that on the show.
Okay.
So all of them are good. You have to be careful.
After this world premiere, what next?
More music. A lot of other things happening this year. I'm going to keep them under wraps, but something major is going to happen in my life this year. I'm not going to say more than that. And I don't want
something major is going to happen in his life.
Like get married.
Like getting married.
It may not be that. It may be something else. Maybe that I'll buy a car.
It may be.
So you don't
So
know.
why haven't you got married anyway?
That's a question for a documentary.
Because we won't leave
very much.
For a documentary.
Shego Obe, voice coach, psalmist, minister, producer, director, importer, expert. All those ones are not there. Thank you so much for being here this morning.
Such an honor. Thank you.
And that rounds up Sunrise for today. Thank you for spending your morning with us. We hope to bring you a fresh edition next Saturday, and we hope that you will join us. I'm Alero Edu, wishing you all the best until then.
And I'm Ayo Makinde. Have a wonderful weekend.
Have you heard that you can now print glossy, high-quality, 7 pages, A2 size wall calendars for just 120,000 Naira only, and A3 size for just 60,000 Naira only, and it will be produced and delivered